So, as you can tell, we have a slight problem. There just isn't any in-game sound. Brilliant! I travel all the way to London to record some exclusive early Dark Souls 3 footage. I set up my capture card and all my equipment, and it turns out there were headphones plugged into the PS4, so the audio went through the headphones and didn't get picked up by my capture card. Well, I guess we'll have to improvise.
How dare you!
That really hurt!
How's it going, everybody? So yes, unfortunately the sound and music design has always been crucial in the Souls games to build up atmospheres, so to be honest you will have to watch other people's videos if you want a true representation of this preview build, but either way I still wanted to show you some Pyromancer gameplay and just have a little fun as always. Now this is pretty much the final big gameplay reveal we will be able to see before the game releases. We've got 3 new bosses to look at and a couple of new areas. I took a look at some other videos and most people seem to have either chose the Thief class or the Knight, so I thought I'd be a special unique snowflake and try out the Pyromancer and switch it up a bit more by making a female character. Now the character creation is looking good, as with every Souls game, it doesn't really matter what class you start with. I will say though, the best new addition I found was this tab right here. Body hair, people, body hair. I'm gonna be a strong, hairy, independent woman who don't need no man, okay? This is 2016, let's do this. Alrighty, so the Cemetery of Ash is the beginning area. It's where you pick up your Ashen Estus flask, which is obviously a new type of Estus that refills your FP, which I believe stands for focus points. That's this blue bar right here. You use this bar for spellcasting as well as for your weapon arts and skills, so in fact it's not just for magic users. Other than that, the Pyromancer is unique in that you start the game already having a Pyromancy glove equipped and the standard fireball spell ready to use, as well as a hand axe for close combat. One thing I will say before we enter the new Firelink Shrine, which is that structure off in the distance, is that this game looks good so far. There's some really stunning vistas and background scenery. I thought it might be fun to look at some comparisons. This is from Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. You can clearly see an upgrade there. I mean, as it should be. It should definitely look better, of course. If it looked worse, there'd be a huge problem there. Alright, now for a bit of light entertainment. Watch me fail pathetically at this stupidly simple jump over and over again, because I am a professional. And of course it totally wasn't worth it anyway. But right after that we have the tutorial boss. Udex Gundyr might be the best tutorial boss in any Souls game so far, if not just for the setting. I really think the best bosses are the ones which have fantastic context, and the arena you battle in looks incredible. It's partially flooded and then completely open on one side. Just a fantastic backdrop for this fight to take place. Once again, it's just all about the atmosphere, I think. Now the boss itself has 2 stages and it's not incredibly challenging. I mean, bear in mind it is the tutorial boss, and just something to keep in mind is the second stage is definitely more difficult, I would say. But I just want to point out that I picked the Pyromancer and that came in really handy for this fight. Just take a look at the damage my fireballs are doing. They're definitely outperforming my hand axe, that's for sure. Also, the thing is, the boss is transformed by darkness when he gets to about quarter health, as you can see here, and I think that's why my fireballs were doing such good damage against him. I'm starting to believe that fire is just good in general against enemies with this kind of black dark stuff, you know. Earlier I pointed out that the structure we were heading towards has a very familiar name. That's right. Now, that's the same name as the hub area from Dark Souls 1, although this area in fact looks more like the hub area from Demon Souls. The point I want to make about this is that there are some really significant references back to the previous games, and I know it's a bit early to tell, but I think it's going to be really interesting to piece together the story of Dark Souls 3. I said months ago that pretty much the ideal thing they could do is take the best parts from all the previous games and combine and wrap them all up into one, tie up all the loose ends and all that kind of stuff, and in some ways they might be doing that. I mean, there's even obvious Bloodborne inspiration, which is cool to see because Bloodborne had some incredible level design and amazing visuals. That's probably a direct impact as to why Dark Souls 3 is looking so good. So Firelink Shrine is where a lot of NPCs will rest and they can be interacted with. We have a crestfallen warrior here who tells us that the aim is to seek the Lords of Cinder and return them to the empty thrones behind us. He's also missing the back of his head. I'm sure there's a lore explanation for that. Someone get Vati on the case. Next up we have the Firekeeper herself. She is where you'll be dumping some of your souls in order to level up. Similar to the Emerald Herald from Dark Souls 2, we also stick the coiled sword that we claimed from the first boss into the ground to make a bonfire, which is interesting. We have a merchant here as well, an old hag, quite reminiscent from the hags at the start of Dark Souls 2. You can dump more souls here to buy all the shiny things, like prism stones for example. Very important. And last but not least for now at this stage of the game, it's freaking Andre. Legit the same name, same everything. It's the actual blacksmith from Dark Souls 1. As crazy as that is, this is where you'll be upgrading, infusing and repairing, pretty standard. But also you can now prioritize what type of Estus you need more of. If you're casting a lot of spells, you'll need more of that blue stuff. If you're tanking a lot of hits as a warrior, you're going to be wanting more of that yellow stuff. So at this point, I was prepared to venture on out, and the only thing left to do was to warp from our central sanctuary to the high wall of Lothric. This is the area shown off in all the previous demos and network tests. I really like this area actually. It's bright, it's visually appealing, it's probably going to be a PvP hotspot and the place where people host fight clubs. I feel like it might become the Dark Souls 3 equivalent of the Undead Burg. Moving up from this courtyard area is where I found the binoculars, and I must say I'm disappointed. Now you might be like, how can you be disappointed with binoculars? That makes no sense. They're not equipped in the weapon slot like Dark Souls 2, so it's treated as an item. I'm taking it out and I can look around, as you can see, all good, but I'm locked in place. That's just annoying. I should be able to move and walk around while looking through them. And yeah, maybe I care more because they're useful in helping to make videos, they can get some cinematic shots with them, stuff like that. But in fact, they actually get me killed later on. Anyway, mimics are back, which is great to see. Still hoping for a mimic bonfire though. That's the dream, man. But yeah, this one dropped a refined gem when I killed it. And the refined gem is a material that can be taken back to Andre to infuse a weapon. Alright, you know how I mentioned that my binoculars got me killed? Just take a look at this. Okay, yeah, it was my fault for having them pinned to my item slots. As you can see, I switched to my Estus like a second too late. But the point is, they lock me in place. The animation is long. I just had to stand there and await my death. But it's time for revenge. There's the parry, there's the riposte. Roasted. Now I'm actually going to skip through the rest of this area because it's pretty familiar by now, but if you remember previously there was the Dancer of the Frigid Valley boss waiting for us at the end of the level, but as we walk into the building where it used to be, it becomes clear that it's not here anymore. Strange, they actually moved a boss. Instead we get this new NPC and she tells us to walk down to the high wall and raise a banner. She also gives us access to the Way of the Blue Covenant. Now, fingers crossed that the Covenant actually works properly this time. But aside from that, it seems like you can actually switch your Covenant at any time now through your inventory, which is great. Hopefully it encourages people to experiment and try out different Covenants. So we head straight back out from that building and head down towards the base of the wall, past some of these spear enemies, and then into this huge room, and you just know there's going to be a boss fight. Everyone can say, once you play the Souls games enough, you know when you walk into a boss arena, it just looks like a boss room. And of course, I've run out of Estus, so this is going to go great. Root of the Boreal Valley. It's the second boss we encounter, and its thing is all about ice. In fact, it actually inflicts frostbite throughout the battle, which, from what I've seen, stops your stamina from regenerating. I think at around half health it also has an ice breath attack, where it blasts the area in front of it with a wall of icy mist. It has a charge attack, where it just goes mental and sprints up and down the room 3 or 4 times, crushing everything in its way. Again, it's a great boss. 2 out of 2 of the bosses so far is pretty good going. The strategy for this boss would definitely be just stay underneath it and then stay as close as possible. I figured that out pretty early on. I actually didn't do that bad, although bear in mind the difficulty was scaled down for this build in order to give all the reviewers a chance to get through it. I even got the boss to half health, but unfortunately I couldn't quite finish it off without any Estus. You win this time, Fort, but I think I got you on the next one. This is going to be a 2-part series. We're going to finish off Vort and also meet my new hated nemesis, the Cursed Rotted Greatwood. Oh man. We are actually allowed to show up to 45 minutes of gameplay from this event, but because of the sound problems I had, which I do apologise for by the way, I just decided to shorten everything down to about 20 minutes. Thanks for watching guys, click on screen to go to the next part, and I will see you there.